Next up, our fuzzy little friends, the adjectives.
You probably already know that adjectives are words that describe or modify nouns, and that in Spanish, descriptive adjectives usually come after the noun they're describing.
Right. And it's important to keep in mind when you're dealing with these adjectives that they have to agree with their noun in number and gender. Right?
Right.
Remember all that talk about articles and demonstrative adjectives? We said that there are basically 4 forms of each article: singular masculine, singular feminine, plural masculine, and plural feminine. Like with el, la, los, and las. Well, the same thing's true with adjectives. The form of the adjective has to agree with the noun.
As we look at adjectives, we're going to separate them into 3 groups. Ones that end in O, ones that end in E, and ones that end in a consonant. That way, it'll be easier for us to track the changes they make to agree with their nouns.
In adjectives that end in O, like alto, tall, rubio, blonde, or colombiano, Colombian, the final O changes to an A if whatever it's describing is feminine. So we would say el caballo alto and la jirafa alta. This is the masculine form, and this is the feminine form. If the noun being described is plural, then we tag an S onto the end of our adjectives. Los caballos altos, las jirafas altas. There's agreement here, 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 and here. Look at all that agreement.
Now let's look at adjectives that end in E, like inteligente, intelligent, or triste, sad. There aren't any O's to change into A's, so we don't have to worry about gender. We could say el chico triste, or la chica triste. The adjective stays the same, but we do have to add an S if the noun's plural. So while we say el chico triste, we would say los chicos tristes.
Most of the time, adjectives that end in consonants work the same way as adjectives that end in E, so you don't have to worry about gender, just number.
Take the adjective which means faithful, fiel. If we have a faithful dog, we might say el perro fiel. Most of the time, when the adjective ends in a consonant, you don't have to worry about the gender of the noun. But we still have to think about number. So if we're dealing with many faithful dogs, we would say los perros fieles. Notice we have to add an ES instead of just an S. We need to add that extra E in there anytime we're making a word that ends in a consonant plural.
Did you notice we said that with most adjectives that end in a consonant, you don't have to worry about gender? There are always exceptions floating around out there, so keep that in mind when you're making sure everyone's in agreement.
Let's recap. Adjectives that end in O need to agree in both gender and number with their noun. Adjectives that end in E and most adjectives that end in a consonant just have to agree with their noun in number. Not too bad.